let me just find it here for you, a button there which says Q&A. So if you want to ask the panelists a question, Michael will field those questions as appropriate, maybe during the session or during the Q&A as well. So feel free to ask questions as well to the panelists. This is the great thing about these virtual conferences. You get direct access to everybody here today. And before we start, I believe that the organizers want to celebrate this panel session and begin with a group photo. So how about that? So what I'm going to ask is that all of our panelists have done their makeup and they're ready to smile. They're ready to go for this session. So are we all ready, folks? Excellent. Yes. Great. Okay, so what I'll do the countdown, and when we're done with the photo, I'm going to hand back over to Michael to take it away. All right, everybody. So ready for panel session 1 and the group photo. 3, 2, 1. Fantastic. I'm sure that came out very well. And by the way, the highlights of day 1, we will share these with social media posts. So stick around to the end of the day and you'll get access to all of the content from today. Michael, thank you very much. Over to you.
Thanks, Graham. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first industry panel for the FECE 2020. Really glad to be able to connect with all of you and have the chance to moderate such a panel of distinguished contributors. We have about an hour together, and what I'd like to do is to systematically introduce each panelist perspective for a couple of minutes with each of us. So that will take us about maybe 30-40 minutes, and after that we keep about 15-20 minutes where we can go into a group Q&A discussion, and we'll be happy to take questions from the floor. And you can use the Q&A button to log in your questions, and I'll do my best to share and direct them to the audience, to the panelists. Okay, so let's get started. I'm very happy to maybe invite comments from our first panelist, Mr. Chris Wei. So to update and share more about Chris. So Chris is the Global Chairman for Aviva Digital and Executive Chairman for Aviva Asia. He leads Aviva's global drive in digital and has really transformed, the 321-year-old insurer into a leading insurtech disruptor. Now, Chris also manages Aviva's operations across Asia and has been very active in driving initiatives that are really bringing change for businesses, customers, employees, and other key stakeholders across the region. Prior to his time at Aviva, Chris was the Group CEO of Great Eastern Holdings and was very responsible for successfully growing their business and entrenching their leadership position in Singapore and Malaysia. So Chris, welcome to the panel. Thank you very much for joining us. As our first speaker, as a digital leader, can you share with us your perspectives around how COVID has been changing demand for insurance in the market? And also, there's always a typical perception that insurance is a high-touch, very personalized business. And as an early leader in digital, can you share what are some of your learnings, especially on the cultural front? Oftentimes people talk about the technology side of change, but I think the cultural side of change is important. And how did you bridge the culture between incumbents and the digital natives? Thank you, Chris. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. And good morning, Michael. Good morning to all the participants. And let me first thank SBF for inviting me to be part of this very important conference. As the organizers load my slides, I'll just maybe start with the first question. COVID has had a very fundamental impact to our business. And on the plus side, it's actually raised a lot of awareness for our customers around the importance of being protected and buying insurance. So awareness has grown. Of course, on the flip side, when you have lockdowns and social distancing, our advisors are not actually able to meet our customers face to face. And it was really interesting learning over the last 6 months. If I use China as the first example, Hubei province represents about 15% of our business in China. We have a joint venture with COFCO. And we had already built out our digital platform on Tencent's WeChat infrastructure. So we had all the advisory tools ready, but not all of our advisors were using it. And stealing the line from Minister Chan, we took advantage of the crisis. We actually trained all of our advisors digitally. 100% of our advisors took up the training. We had about a 20% drop in the next couple of months in terms of top line, but actually 97% of our business was transacted fully digitally. So it sort of taught us, there are different ways to meet our customers' needs, and old paradigms can definitely be broken down and reinvented. So that's absolutely in line with the intent of this conference. If I can move on to the next slide and sort of give a bit of an introduction to Aviva Digital. Our board 5 years ago understood that we needed to separate our digital and innovation practice from the rest of our business. And so my title, actually, it's a totally separate legal entity with separate governance, separate funding. And that was very intentional. And I think for a lot of businesses that are trying to embark on a digital journey, you will understand as an owner or as a person that runs a business, organizations have limited bandwidth to do change. And this is even before I touch culture. It's just how much money a company will have, big or small, to allocate towards something new, and the impact to the existing business and infrastructure is material. So for Aviva, we needed to separate it. If I can go to the next slide, please. And I'm just showing a few years of history here, but we started off very much on functional improvement. We probably spent too much time, too much money on design. And then we gradually, after the first year, realized you can build a fantastic website. It doesn't change your business. That's table stakes to make the experience relatively seamless. So then we began to think about propositions that would impact the differentiation elements of what Aviva offered. So we began to build out more unique aspects of our build. 3 years in, we actually started to make an impact. And in the UK, for example, a pension customer of ours can see everything around their savings for retirement. They can do fund switches. A lot of UK customers have pensions with other companies. We made it a one button to decide to consolidate your pension savings onto the Aviva platform. Making things really easy and frictionless for customers allowed us to grow our business quite rapidly. If I can move to the next slide. But actually, it took us a few years to figure out what was our core capability to actually differentiate a sustainable strategy. And Aviva and insurance it's quite a technical industry. A lot of it's driven by understanding customer behavior, understanding the fundamentals of our business. And we created something new a couple of years ago called Quantum. Quantum is Aviva's data analytics practice. I'm sure through the course of the day, you're going to hear a lot about the importance of data management. I can tell you this is absolutely the currency that fuels our strategy around innovation and digital. But we needed to create a construct that actually organized the business to think through what we could apply it for. Otherwise, you can run in 10,000 different directions and actually waste a lot of effort. So we organized Quantum and actually digital along 3 verticals. The first vertical is actually understanding how data can impact the core fundamentals of our business. So we use data, of course, for underwriting to understand risk. We use it for claims. So we wanted to, again, make it frictionless for a customer to be able to submit a claim. We're very, very proud to meet our promises and pay claims. But it would be counterintuitive and actually relationship destructive if we made it really difficult for a customer to claim. So we put in a lot of analytics to make it seamless for you, whether it's using natural language processing to read reports, whether it is using technology so you can easily take photographs of damage or build out APIs so that we could link to sources of data so that you can fulfill your claim. Let's say connecting with the clinic, which has provided your medical services. So a lot of that is just fundamentally what we do, but we wanted to make it very almost pleasurable, if that's possible, for you to deal with your insurance company. The second vertical is very important for all business, which is operational efficiency. I'm quite proud to say that Aviva Singapore has one of the lowest expense ratios in the industry. And it's because we've used technology to simplify and to streamline all of our operational processes. Now, you don't automate anything unless you've actually fundamentally rethought your process. And it's a skill set that needs to be built. It is talent that you may not have in your organization. But don't digitize an inefficient process. That again would be counterintuitive. So it does require quite a broad skill set. And then it's breaking down which bits of capability you should be building as proprietary IP and which bits are easily bought because it's now commoditized. So Minister Chan talked about natural language processing. There's multiple companies that provide that capability. It's a very rules-based engine in its traditional form. There's no point rebuilding that. So I would say an NLP engine should be acquired through partnership, collaboration, or you just buy it as a service. And that's what we did. The IP bit is actually the rules that sit on top. So we have a set of rules that allow us to read medical reports for health underwriting. We have a set of rules that read legal reports for litigation claims. We have another set that do it for commercial broker submissions, et cetera, et cetera. That bit is the proprietary capability, and you need to have the skill set that focuses on the bit that will be unique to yourself. The last bit is the one that I have the most fun with, which is how do you leverage data and analytics for growth? This needs to be linked to your strategy. You need to understand really the nuances of what you're trying to achieve. So one small example, we have a digital joint venture with Tencent and Hillhouse Capital in Hong Kong. We use analytics to understand our customer behavior digitally. Now, this is, of course, with their permission. So if we give the customer good reason to share some of their information with us, so the proposition has to be strong. We have to earn their trust in order for them to share some of the details of their digital experience online. But we realize that for insurance anyway, it's not like retail digital commerce. We're not selling iPhones. We're not selling Beats headphones that people want naturally. They're looking for it online. For insurance, we needed to do it differently. And we realized through analytics that for a bunch of our customers, it's not one ad, it's not 5. It could be 50 to 70 touch points through a variety of different content providers. So we had a full range of centers of excellence, influencers that we use in Hong Kong. We used a little bit of digital above the line. We used Google search, of course, and Facebook. But the bit that was most interesting, we also partnered with Tencent for gamification, specifically using their music platform for the younger millennial customers. So we began to break down the lead generation funnel through all of these different aspects and had really good success. And together with a number of different things, including a new savings proposition and a new stack from cloud all the way up to the front end, pleased to say that in 2020, for the first 9 months, we've actually grown about 1,000%. So data and analytics certainly does pay. If I can ask for the next slide. So we have absolutely benefited from partnering with Singapore government entities. We've actually retrained a lot of our people, and we've rolled out a number of different aspects that enhance the customer experience. This is just a few examples here. But again, plugging in with PayNow, payments is an enabler, right? So if you make it really easy for a customer to transact, if you make it really easy for us to validate your identity, that just makes online commerce that much easier. But again, it is absolutely linked with our analytics capability, and it's got to be lined up with your particular business strategy. Next slide, please. These are just a couple of examples. We've had the benefit of working with IMDA. We were the first insurer actually to work with them to help get us into the cloud. We are quite a legacy business, and I assure you, because we have, even within Singapore, about 1 million customers, it's a lot of data to move. It needs a lot of capability. And word of advice for those that are beginning to embark on this journey, cloud is incredibly enabling. It allows us to collect and organize more data than we could have ever imagined. We had business runs that used to take 2 to 3 weeks on a PC. Once it's into the cloud, it takes seconds. Now, that's fantastic, but also running programs on the cloud is not cheap. We had initial burst of enthusiasm with our actuaries that didn't stop running any models because they could get more information out of it than they ever could before. And actually our cloud bills went through the roof. So there does need to be a bit of a governance around that. But we have the benefit in Singapore of more programs. And I think I can honestly say across the region, but probably well beyond globally, in all of our markets, Singapore offers the most support in terms of modernizing business through digital and training. Next slide, please. And I'm going to get to probably the crux of the question that Michael was asking. I can probably admit that Aviva was one of the earlier movers in our industry in fully embracing digital. And we had the benefit of a board that understood we needed to separate Aviva Digital from the traditional business side in order for that sort of room and breathing space for the innovation to happen. But I can say without doubt that the biggest leadership challenge for me was making sure that the culture was able to embrace the change. And this does require a lot of open communication and a lot of leadership. So one of my favorite examples is at the beginning, right at the very beginning in 2015, 16, I had to hire a chief designer, and we were lucky enough to get somebody that was living in LA, working for a gaming company, to come and join us in cold and dark London, certainly in the winters. And when I asked Charles why he wanted to join, his answer was, well, right now I'm spending my days, yes, I live on a beach, but I spend my days building superpowers for people to play a fictional war online. And I want to apply my skills to build superpowers so that customers can manage their financial needs online. And for me, that was the question and answer that nailed it for me. And we brought in some really inspirational talent from a broad array of digital native companies, Google, Amazon included, Tencent, ByteDance included, etc. And when those folks come in, they expect a certain business paradigm. And even though we had our own digital garage, we had nimble working processes, we had a massive clash of culture when our insurance colleagues intersected with our digital colleagues. And the insurance side felt very threatened. They felt that they weren't part of the new sexy digital thing. And their natural defenses popped up. They used acronyms that only insurance folk would understand. They really, exhibited a set of behaviors that were what I coin organizational tissue rejection. And it really does require leadership. It requires a lot of time, a lot of mediation to make sure that priorities are aligned, that conversations are productive, that projects are genuinely collaborative. This cannot be delegated right at the beginning until it's embedded into a refreshed approach of working, until the new trust elements are built. It needs leadership from the top, and the board needs to say the right things. The CEO needs to be personally engaged, and whoever is responsible for digital has to spend the time and get into the nuts and bolts and the detail. So if there's one bit of learning I leave with all of you, that would probably be the main thing. And so what happens at the end of it? Well, if I just use Aviva Singapore as an example, proud to say that although we had a little bit of pent-up demand over the first half of the year with all the COVID lockdowns, August was probably one of our best months on record. And a lot of it was partially due to digital enablement. Some of it was due to new propositions that we launched. And some of it was, of course, people, again, being much more aware of what we offer. But done right, done efficiently, and done properly, I think it absolutely does validate the investment can be a very good return on investment. So thank you, Michael. I think those are the main comments I'd like to make, and I'll pass it back to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for a very comprehensive overview of your journey. And I really like the points you made around kind of using purpose as a way to engage stakeholders and to attract talent, and also being able to build trust across the different segments of the stakeholders that you have. I think that's a very nice bridge to our second panelist for today. I'd like to introduce Ms. Janet Young. who is the MD and Head of Group Channels and Digitalization at UOB. So Janet is a member of the senior leadership team and has been leading delivery channels, digitalization initiatives, customer experience and advocacy to achieve UOB Group's vision of a premier regional bank in Asia Pacific. She champions collaborative business models, omni-channel strategy to drive better customer experience and outcomes for the bank and its customers in the digital age. Janet brings more than 25 years of banking and treasury experiences and serves as a board member for several organizations, including the National Council of Social Services, as well as being on the advisory board of Nanyang Business School and the NUS School of Computing and Technology. Now, I'd like to invite, Janet to speak from her perspective as someone who's leading change at, UOB, which is such a well-known local company, deep roots, very long history. And as a senior leader, can you share with us how your company is navigating this new normal? And how are you transforming the incumbent businesses to better serve consumers in this new age? And what's the role of digital in it? I think particularly interested to hear about how to drive change and agility in a big incumbent that already has a very well-established business. Thank you, Janet. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks, Michael, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think you can bring up my cover slide as I speak through. Michael, so the things that you have thrown at me, right? Navigating the new normal, talking about business transformation to drive and better serve customers, role of digital and the experience of driving change. I could take an entire afternoon, but I think there have been several points that Chris have touched on. I think the most important thing I want to make at this juncture is that with digitalization, with COVID, and with Industry 4.0, many of the businesses and individuals have been in this last 6 months forced by circumstances to just adopt digital. I think that we had the benefit, I think at UOB, to look at the entire process as a business transformation, asking ourselves the questions of why do we need a bank? People say you need banking, but may not need a bank, right? And asking ourselves, what are the markets? What are the segments? What are the customers that are still, relevant in this place that UOB call home? We have been 85 years old, operating in 19 markets, with big tech, fintechs, all attacking this universe of banking, coming into banking universe. Do we still have the ability to say that we have the right to win? We have the right to be able to, work with our customers in the way they live, they play, and they bank. And I think then, it goes back down to if we have looked at the role of a financial intermediary, a lot of people are going to banking, into payments, into lending. But when we get into the role of financial custodian, as the safekeeper, as the party that looks after the safety, the soundness, the security, as well as help our customers grow their wealth, grow their assets, grow their business, and grow the way they want to, fulfill their own goals, whether you're an individual or businesses. I think 4 years ago, not so different from Chris, UOB took the approach of doing a full business transformation. Yi Chong himself, together with the full 9 yards of appointing a big bracket consultant, happens, Michael, to be BCG, and the whole leadership team, 16 of us, worked through that transformation journey and left no part of the bank unturned. We took the opportunity to revalidate, to review, and to look for opportunities, not just looking at fixing the gaps, not just looking at taking a digital solution and say, okay, I have a digital bank, just like others are forming digital banks and MAS is giving digital bank license, but truly going back to asking ourselves, why do we do what we do? And over here, I'm going to share, a couple of the insights around why the journey is not always so easy, but it's a journey that I feel businesses in Singapore, in the region, in ASEAN, where UOB is very, very large, when we revalidate it and we find that in this era of globalization, but there are trade tensions going on, all the more business connectivity and individuals who seek opportunities to look for their ability to grow beyond their own shores will require banks like ourselves to connect them, to help them, and to advance not just their financial well-being, but their personal well-being. So you see that the example that I've used in the consumer space is the space that actually many businesses in the room attending this seminar who do a B2C model can relate. I think in the attempt of transformation, when we revalidated, the why, the what, then we come to the how, it became obvious to us that in this digital world, we need to be able to ensure that you tap and leverage on ecosystem partners. So you have to integrate the way a financial intermediary, so banking, what does banking, entail? Pay, collect, you lend, you borrow, you help people to invest, you help people to transact, you help people to save, keep, all these transactions that we do, which is the financial intermediary role of UOB and as a bank, is now being embedded into how people live. When people need to buy a home, when people want to buy a home, today, what's the most important thing on their mind? Their mind is, can I get enough funding? Do I qualify for a big enough loan to buy my choice home? Take that uncertainty away. Take that uncertainty away by giving them an online calculator, a valuation model, and giving them instant approval. More than 30% of our customers who go online to apply get an instant approval immediately and therefore understand, I can afford to buy these 3 types of properties before they go out there to negotiate. So integrating banking in customers' top lifestyle priorities is in what I would say in Chinese, 衣食住行. When you are able to think through how you live, how you work, how you commute, how you pay, how you look at the big picture items like buying a home, to the small but daily items like having electricity at your home. And again, because it's a B2C world, the world of marketplaces, we find that many of our consumers, in the process of looking at things, they have this habit, because we studied their habit of discovering online. They will check, they will compare, they will try to find the best deal. So for us, this is the way that we make banking safer, simpler, and more convenient, right? Why let the customer go through surfing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 utility providers, right? I mean, whether you have to look at Sunsip, Diamond Electric, and or our, SingPower, we can aggregate all of them. One online utility marketplace, the first that we've put across, was because we understand customer love the ability to compare, to price discover, and find the most suitable. If you go on there, you can actually check what's the best deal for you. If you want to spend a certain amount, you like a fixed plan, a variable plan. These are the insights of being able to study consumers at close range because of data and data analytics. This is the beautiful world of digital. So by integrating banking into our customers' top lifestyle, be it dining, be it travel, and wanting to make it safer, simpler, and more convenient, as we studied the whole business transformation, we took the approach that it's not just to fix the gaps, not just to fix digitalization, not just to digitalize, and like Chris said, don't digitize an inefficient process, but truly look at also the opportunities that would come about. And in doing so, we found the opportunity that to reach a digital generation, a segment of customers that we call the digital savvy, right? I mean, UOB, just like many of the organizations like 80 over years old, we're not born digital. We're not a digital native. And many of the companies that are attending this seminar as well, if you're more than 30, 40 years old, your history and with a great tradition, you're not born digital. But you have to become digital. And if your business model require you to go into a segment of customers who are digitally savvy, look at the cheerful, iconic look of our digital bank called Tomorrow, TMRW, right? It is the bank for digital generation. It looks so different from UOB Mighty, our all-in-one, lifestyle payment app that allows you to pay, bank, book dining and travel and AVEX and so on and so forth. So we looked at it and we said, what does a digital bank do for us? It helps us to acquire at scale. It helps us to reach out to this digital generation that's mobile first, digital first, and they look at life very differently. They like to be able to take charge of their own destiny and be able to work on how much they can save, how much they can spend, and their goals. Is it to travel? Is it to study? Is it to get married? Is it to have a beautiful home, or go to the beachfront and enjoy 1 year of sabbatical? So all of these things that we do is to give the customers freedom of choice. You can look at this and ask UOB, when we did our business transformation, what was the key thing we kind of come upon when we look at the why, the what, and the how? It was clear to us that our customer segment in this whole Asia Pacific, where it's big for us, is largely in the consumer, in the SME, in the corporate space. This remains unchanged. And for us, the market that we play in, we're a big ASEAN bank, we're a big SME bank. It is going to be important for us to continue this and to build on this. So when we look at all these, we looked at the opportunity that digital can bring for us. We do not have a lot of very young, youthful customers. Probably a lot of people associate the bank with businesses, and businessmen tends to be in the past, the 40, 50-year-old, tauke. And so therefore, for us to reach out to the second gen, for us to reach out to the generation of tomorrow, we need to be able to launch this digital bank. We launched it in Thailand to great success, and this year we launched it in Indonesia. Right? So in doing so, I want to be able to encapsulate that in the consumer space. Most of the ability that digitalization brings to our total business transformation is the ability to tap on new opportunities and being able to validate that with the understanding of customer insights. We know the needs that they have, the needs of wanting to have convenience, of choice, of being omni-channel, do what they want, when they want, how they want, and having in-person advice, having the human touch, as well as having digital, gives them the best of both worlds. Our omni-channel customers are 2.2 times more profitable than our digital customer. Our omni-channel customers is 1.5 times more profitable than a traditional customer who just use our branches and call center. So that's one of the aspects of being able to tap on opportunities. Next slide, please. I want to be able to say that, with the SME world, the story is not so different. With the SMEs, which is a huge segment for UOB, we brought digitalization to our business customers because most of the times, and in every survey, even in the most recent survey that we did in May this year, in the midst of COVID, with Accenture and Dun & Bradstreet, we realized that the biggest concern, the biggest top of mind for SMEs are cash flow. This has always been perennially, the key thing that worries them. It is still in the midst of COVID. But the second big thing that came about is to manage cash flow during this period. Is circuit breaker in Singapore, it's MCO order in Malaysia, it is some degree of curfew in Thailand, there's certain degree of lockdown in Indonesia, and of course in China, you know the story. In this entire, ASEAN or Asia context, we found that in the survey across, we took the ASEAN survey, 1,000 SMEs, we found that SMEs tell us that 77% of them finds that the way to manage cash flow is to improve efficiency through greater use of technology. And therefore, it vindicates the fact that, 3 years ago when we did our business transformation, when we looked at the whole segment, we said we cannot just be to the SMEs, just giving them loans, giving them AVEX, giving them deposits, giving them accounts, and giving them transactional banking. We need to be able to go beyond banking. We need to be able to go beyond and help them, because unlike many of the bigger companies, SMEs do not have the resources, they may not have the time, they may not have the human capital to be able to help themselves to go through a full business transformation. And so therefore, we have early on, in 3 years ago, started the journey of bringing UOB BizSmart, a cloud-based integrated business solution to help SMEs manage their business digitally. This, we do not make money. We don't collect a single cent of all the SAP that power BizSmart. We do not collect a single cent of the HR Easily, payroll tool that goes into BizSmart. The main thing for us over here is the same. The purpose why we exist is to help our customers be successful. Bringing digitalization to our business customers where they need it, where they themselves can be empowered, where they become smart and smarter, and where they can themselves have a seamless integration between their POS, their online website, if they have an e-commerce checkout point, having the APIs to be able to port it, let them have the ability to start gathering data, being able to study data, being able to accept QR, SGQR, Pay Now, Prompt Pay, whatever the thing is in Singapore is Pay Now, corporate Pay Now, being able to collect using M-Collect invoicing on the go, being able to connect to trade platforms so that they can actually trade, and being able to help them manage their business on the go, real time in mobile, right? All of these things are crucial. And this is the customer insight that we gained, that most of the SMEs do not know how to get started to digitalize. They, like ourselves in UOB, we have to get started by forming a huge transformation team, really with the cadence, with the robust discipline of meeting once a month. Top team, Yi Chong himself chairs it. Top team, nobody kind of get excuses. And then within every week, people start changing the way they work. Agile teams, business technology sitting together to work through all the different streams to help, in this case, SMEs go digital. Of course, we are lucky in Singapore. We have partners like IMDA, ESG that goes about promoting, supporting, and providing the avenue, the platform for us to take part and be part of the community. And in this case, I show an example. In the case of COVID, it was apparent that even the businesses, the SMEs who prefer to do things same old business as usual, they embraced and they said, I need to go on digital so that, as an F&B, I will not have circuit breaker destroy my business. I have the ability to really have an in-store contactless ordering and also an omni-channel digital. So this is also the thought process. And I come to my last slide, which is the most important part, I feel, about the digital transformation, and also about the last question you asked me about the experience of driving change and how to have agility. I think it's about the people element. It is about the people element. I've shown a lot of faces over here. Pre-COVID, we did a lot of digital clinics for SMEs. In fact, we collaborated hugely with IMDA. We did a lot of digital clinics for our seniors as well, because ultimately, digital natives, the converted, will embrace digital. And the same thing with our own staff in UOB. We have 26,000 people spread across 19 countries. And in Singapore, we have close to 8,000 people. And if we do not, find the way to ensure that our own people embrace, learn, get inspired, and we do not consistently communicate to them about the need of upskilling, reskilling, how can they convince our customers to get on the journey, to help to teach our customers, educate our customers, and continually find ways to show our customers the way? And of course, now that it is COVID, it is now turned to online workshops and webinars. We ourselves, we invested in FinLab together with IMDA's IIPL, the Infocom JV in the past, to help fintechs adopt digital, help fintechs go into my minimum viable product. But 3 years ago, we pivoted and found that the way to help, tech startups and the way to help SMEs is to put them together and to, use FinLab to help the process of getting SMEs adopt digital, because they need to embark on change management, business transformation, upgrade and upskill their staff, bring their customers, bring their staff. So the people element has to be incorporated. So if I want to end the so-called my sharing, I think start from making sure that we take the opportunity, small, medium, big businesses, to transform holistically. If you can afford, use a facilitator. If you do not want to use a facilitator, really, drive that change from the very top. If you need help, there are many, organizations, chambers of commerces, industry, verticals that are here, and we ourselves in FinLab do that as well. Many of the avenues to help you on that journey, but be committed, stay connected to the customers, really find out the purpose and understand what they need and why you should have a place in their lives. And I think with that, bring your people along, and I think this whole digital journey will be a worthwhile one, as we have found in UOB. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Janet. Thanks for a very comprehensive sharing too. And I really liked how you talked about people, and I think that is a very nice bridge to introduce our third panelist. Our third panelist is Dr. Michael Fang. He is the Deputy Chief Executive, Chief Human Resource Officer, and Chief Data Officer at SkillsFuture Singapore. So he's responsible for overseeing the development of the continuing education and training system in Singapore through managing funding and contractual partnerships with private training providers, institutions of higher learnings, and enterprises. He oversees the HR function and is a very strong champion for data capabilities, governance, and reporting practices at SSG. And he's also an adjunct senior fellow at the Singapore University of Technology and Design. And I thought this is a nice time in the panel to change gears a little bit. So we've heard a lot about businesses and how they're transforming, putting customers first. But at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to people. And we know that technology is creating a lot of uncertainty and insecurity amongst the workforce, right? I think COVID-19 decreases the transparency that's out there. So I would like to, ask Michael, what's your view about the new normal in terms of skills upgrading and training? Besides the hard skills that are often discussed, can you share your perspectives around what are some of the important soft skills and mindsets that people need in order to thrive ahead? And what's the government doing in terms of preparing our youth for work in the future? Thank you. Handing over to Michael, please.
Thanks, Michael. First off, I want to thank SBF, Menkit, and your team for inviting me to be part of this panel. I'm very honored to be here together with my fellow panelists. And I also want to congratulate Chris and Janet, for the amazing transformation journey we've heard from you that Aviva and UOB has gone through. It's inspiring, and I think more can be done to help other companies, including the small, medium enterprises, to undertake that transformation journey as well. And Janet, we've been also working with UOB on reaching out to the your SME customer pool to help them to embark on SkillsFuture initiatives. So in my sharing here, can we bring up the slides, please? Yes, thank you. So in my sharing here, I would like to maybe share with the audience some perspectives on how we see the new normal and how we see customers and individuals being able to navigate the challenges of the new normal. If we take a look at the next slide, okay, all right. If we take a look at the past decade or so, it is quite clear, it's evident in our day-to-day lives that disruptions have been happening. Take, for example, food and beverage. As early as the turn of 2010 and 2012 or so, we've seen the growth of online delivery, online ordering, use of social media channel to increase reach to consumers, and the growth of platforms like GrabFood, Foodpanda, and so on, Deliveroo. And that has actually changed the way the food and beverage sector has been delivering to customers. Those who have not gone on digital have been left out of the growth, and particularly during this COVID times, the retailers, food and beverage outlets that have provided online delivery services have actually seen tremendous growth. In the last 3 years or so, we've seen online delivery swell to about 3,500 outlets, about 1.5 million users today. And this is quite evident as we think about our day-to-day consumption patterns as well. And around 2013, we've seen the growth of ride-hailing services, Grab, Uber, Uber's out now, but Gojek and so on. And this has also transformed how the transportation industry has evolved. At the initial outset, traditional taxi drivers were affected. Taxi companies had fleets that were laying idle for some time, where the private hire drivers increased to something like 70,000 of them by 2017. So huge growth, a change in the way consumers interact with transport provision. But again, we have seen adaptations to that. Taxi drivers have, some of them have come on these platforms. Taxi companies themselves have transformed to offer more convenient access through apps and so on. So we've seen that disruption as well. And retail clearly has gone through disruption. Omni-channel fulfillment and use of online purchase methods, that has increased sharply, especially during COVID. And so again, if you're a retailer that you have an omni-channel strategy, you have online fulfillment methods, then you would have participated in that growth. And of course, COVID. We are now facing the COVID disruptions, and clearly this has impacted many sectors, almost all sectors, and the scale of the impact is quite wide. So I suppose the key message is that disruptions really is not new. We have been having disruptions all this time, but with COVID, I think that has now brought the need to transform right in our face. It's either transform and survive as a business, transform and be able to retain your job or go on to jobs that are still in demand, or you might actually end up, down with the companies and the individuals that may have lost their jobs and lost their businesses. Now, if any of you out there in the audience think that you could sit tight and wait for COVID to blow over, that we'll go back to the great swinging times pre-COVID, as Minister Chan has put it, and I fully agree with him, you have to think again. I think the new normal is going to be very different. And if we're not thinking about how we're transforming our businesses, if we're not thinking about how do we remain employable, we're going to let the disruption truly disrupt our lives. But instead, I think we can take this disruption as an opportunity to grow to the new normal and what it promises, the opportunities that it promises. So I think disruption is here to stay, and perhaps it's going to be even more frequent in the years ahead. And we need to transform, we need to be resilient to be able to survive and to adapt well. And to do that, we need the necessary skills. I think both Chris and Janet, you've talked about reskilling of your workforce and your customers as well. I think that's critical to be able to equip ourselves to be able to do that transformation. So I wanted to share with you some examples. What we've seen, and what we heard from Chris and Janet, inspiring stories. But maybe, for those of you in the audience, some of you from SMEs, you're thinking, Aviva is a big company, UOB is a big company, lots of resources. They were able to invest. They had the vision. How am I going to make that transformation journey? But I want to share with you 3 stories that are, SMEs in the Singapore context that have really gone through a transformation journey. And I think it's heartening to see that. Some statistics to share with you. With COVID hitting us, I think I have some stats here. Some 600 retailers have joined online platforms. Those were not already there. 50,000 new businesses have adopted PayNow, and something like 10,000 food and beverage outlets have taken up online delivery. So it is heartening to see that actually transformation is happening. There was a question in the Q&A box, how do we know if we're transforming and are things turning out right? So some of these stats actually give us some assurance that transformation is indeed happening. And it's heartening to see that, because only by transforming can we stay resilient and be able to do better as we go towards a new normal. So on the left box here, that's Nam Ho Travel. They were, arguably one of the more successful travel agents in Singapore. But as you know, with COVID, travel grounded to a halt. Right? And so now they have to face the inevitable, which is if you don't transform, then your business really goes down. But they took the bold step, they transformed, they upskilled they reskilled their staff in WSQ training and so on. And now they've gone into providing virtual tours, online shopping, and providing snacks and produce purchases to beyond our borders. So I think that was a great adaptation by Nam Ho Travel. That picture in the middle is Certec. It's one of our precision engineering company used to supply metal parts for semicon manufacturers. And again, with the global pandemic, but also with the international trade tensions, they had seen a plunge in their sales. And they have transformed to instead repurpose their facilities to provide plastics parts for healthcare purposes. And as we know, healthcare equipment the demand has gone through the roof in recent times. And by investing in technology and reskilling their staff, they are now able to secure new contracts that keeps them in business in a very good growth path. And the right-hand side, that's the Chinese wedding shop. During COVID-19, the circuit breaker, clearly they weren't able to operate. Weddings were held in a very tight fashion. Even now, I think there are restrictions. So they suffered something like 50% revenue loss. But they managed to transform, embrace digital technologies. They did online consultations over Zoom and revamped their website and outreach to customers. And with that, they've actually seen almost a tenfold increase in inquiries, and they've translated that to sales. So 3 encouraging stories of how local businesses have actually transformed and doing well in this current climate. So I think as a whole, we have seen some very encouraging stories that demonstrates the resilience of our businesses. And I think we can and will overcome this crisis with all of us taking that same transformation journey. And those of you who know, even Getai singers, right? Those have transformed. A notable one has transformed to offer live streaming, live commerce. For those companies who are despairing, I think don't despair. Take action, take inspiration from these stories, and there will be a way with support from government, with support from leading companies like UOB, there's a way to transform your businesses. Now we talked a little bit about skills, what kind of skills is needed for transformation. And there are many different technical skills for different job roles that we have defined in our skills frameworks. But today I just want to share 2 sets of skills that we see as being particularly relevant to all companies during this time of transformation and COVID. One is what we call the critical core skills. So these are 16 skills grouped into 3 areas. And as we think about how do we help employees overcome fear of digitalization, fear of transformation, these critical core skills, I think it's very important. So there are a set of skills around thinking critically, how to see connections and opportunities, problem solving, and so on. Skills around interacting with people, how to collaborate, how to influence others. Skills around staying relevant, having the ability to think about adapting to change, managing oneself, and so on. And these would all build towards a mindset that will embrace change, that will help to navigate uncertainty and help us to innovate. So we embed these critical core skills in our various training programs that we support. And from a company perspective, we encourage you to think beyond just delivering the technical skills in whatever training that you might be supporting your employees to undertake, but also focus on these critical core skills that will help our employees to be more resilient and adaptable. On the digital side, some of the in-demand skills that we've seen in recent times would include things like digital marketing, electronic commerce, electronic transactions, cloud services that Chris mentioned. That's a big area. data analytics, cybersecurity, and so on. So there are a whole range of training programs that we support that's offered by our institutes of higher learning, our private training providers, and our leading enterprises that have come forward to provide training in some of these emerging skills areas. So as we think about resilience of our businesses and resilience of an individual's career, of our employees' careers, what's critically important is mindset, right? The people issue that Jenna talked about. Starting with the mindset, building up the soft skills, building up the technical skills, and that will give us a confidence to be able to navigate the COVID disruption and future disruptions. As many of you would know, and also mentioned briefly by Minister Chan, the government, Singapore government has put aside tremendous amount of resources to help companies, to help individuals to build up their skills, to be resilient, and to be able to navigate the uncertain times. So we do acknowledge that COVID is a difficult period, but it's also a period for us to look at how to build new capabilities within our companies and for ourselves. So we've involved multiple stakeholders beyond our training partners. We've also been working with the unions, the sectoral agencies, leading companies, and we'll launch a range of programs under the SG United Jobs and Skills program. And the intent is to help those who are displaced to find jobs, to find internships, traineeships, training, and train-in-place opportunities to help them to build up the skills to be able to get jobs. For sectors that have been severely affected by COVID, we've also rolled out the enhanced training support package to 7 sectors currently, and this helps companies to be able to take the allowed time within these sectors to be able to send employees for additional training with generous support by the government. Here's another list of support initiatives under SkillsFuture that would be relevant for enterprises. Say, for example, the SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit. This is targeted at helping companies to approach their transformation journey holistically. You can use your SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit for adopting technology solutions, for sending employees for training, for redesigning jobs, and so on. There's also a range of work-study programs where we have enterprises working with our training institutions to be able to build a pipeline of talent. Programs such as SkillsFuture for Digital Workplace, for your employees to be able to be equipped with basic digital literacy and have the confidence to be able to embrace change. And for those of you who find that there's so many initiatives, you don't know where to start, we have the SkillsFuture Jumpstart Workshop, where we'll give you an overview of the range of initiatives that would be relevant for your company. You can also self-help on the Enterprise Jobs and Skills portal. The QR code and the web link is on the top right of the page. And I just want to address a feedback that we hear quite frequently from anecdotal feedback we hear from companies and individuals. The feedback goes like this: times are so challenging for my business, times are so challenging for my career and job. Why do I need training? I've lost my job. My business is coming under pressure. Why do I need training? Now, I can understand their perspective. Now, training is not for its own sake. We have to think again. If we don't have the skills to transform, then truly we may lose our jobs for a long period of time and our businesses may not survive. So as part of transforming our businesses, we need to be able to have the skills to improve our chances that we can transform successfully. And similarly for individuals, have the skills to increase your chances to be able to get a job. So this is why we have these range of training-related support measures to help our companies and support them as they think about how to move their businesses, to help individuals to think about how do they move on to jobs that are still in demand.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Yes, let me just conclude.
Sharing.
Yeah, I just have sort of four short points to conclude. So I think that our key message is that disruptions has become the new norm. Now's the time to transform And we need to build new capabilities and skills, and the Government and SkillsFuture is here to support you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael. Looks like we're running a little bit over time, and I think what I'd like to do is quickly invite our fourth panelist, Mr. Jason Lee, who is the founder of La Perfumerie, to share his perspective. So as a quick introduction, so Jason founded the company in 2014, and he's responsible for product development, marketing, sales, and technology. And prior to founding La Perfumerie, he actually only spent 4 years in Givaudan before he had the courage to go out and really start his own business. Beyond just having a retail presence in Singapore, he's also been very instrumental in helping to drive La Perfumerie to focus on commercial opportunities and to customize fragrances for some of the really well-known brands such as Fullerton Hotel, Singapore Airlines, etc. Jason, so we've heard from the government, we've heard from some of the bigger companies with long history, but as a entrepreneur, as a new company, can you tell us a little bit more about what your new normal is looking like and how you're helping your company and your staff to adapt to the new normal, and what are some of the reflections you have on your entrepreneurial journey during this very challenging time? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Michael, and very good morning to everyone. It is indeed a great honor to be here sharing my experiences and views. And on the first slide, please. I will first share about my experiences in this new normal. And then on the next slide, I will then share about how we adapted in serving our customers and looking after our people. The reality of this new normal really came in during circuit breaker when it was enforced in April this year. Our retail outlets could not operate, and we saw a huge surge in our online orders. Fortunately, in Feb this year, we were quick to adapt and started manufacturing our own sanitizers. Being essential, we were lucky enough to be allowed to operate during the circuit breaker, but we were limited to only a few headcounts. It was indeed a logistic nightmare, especially when our fulfillment partners were also facing manpower shortages. And then we transitioned to phase 2 in June. And to safeguard everyone's safety, it is mandatory for everyone to wear face masks everywhere we go. There were to be no blotters, no testers allowed, and basically we had all our products cling wrapped in stores. So being a fragrance company, it was really difficult. And today, we are exactly 5 months from the announcement of circuit breaker. We see a clear shift in consumer preferences. Well, it used to be a 50-50 between the perfumes and the home fragrances segment, but now we see a 90% leaning towards the home fragrances and only 10% on body perfumes. Not surprisingly, because everyone is working from home right now and people tend to spend significantly less time outside. We have since focused on this segment and will continue to foray into essential oils and natural disinfectants. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So here we talk about how we have been adapting in serving our customers and looking after our people. I shall summarize this with 2 R's, being relevant and being resilient. Being relevant will relate more to the hardware, while being resilient will relate more to the software. Let's touch on the hardware first. And all thanks to the various grants offered by IMDA, WSG, Enterprise Singapore, we've managed to upgrade our current systems. For example, payroll, RFID, inventory systems, CRM, POS, etc. We have tapped on PCP and PMAX grants offered by WSG to upskill and reskill our workforce. And before we move on to the next R, I would like to bring your attention to this smart AI scent ambassador that you are looking at right now. This is a work in progress with Enterprise Singapore and Afternaut, a local UX UI agency. This interface is equipped with smart recognition sensors and is able to engage in intuitive interactions with customers. It is connected to our industrial enablers so that customers can experience our sense while watching and listening to the relevant product media contactlessly. We hope to extend this to other categories like skincare and beauty, with the end goal of collecting and analyzing the big data so that we can bring forth better products and services to the economy. And lastly, we touch on being resilient, the software, which to me is so much more important than staying relevant. Now take the example of the fire ant you see here. And like humans, ants are social animals that work together collectively. A single ant can only do that much. However, an ant colony can find highly efficient solutions together, such as building a massive ant raft during a hurricane flooding that can ultimately save everyone. It is important for businesses and workers alike to remain positive and united. Do not be afraid to evolve and open to new ideas, to new technology. It is always important to keep up the learning, and we should encourage others to do so as well. And don't procrastinate and be late to execute. While we are still in this recovery mode, economies are still not yet fully open, the borders are still closed, and we should make use of this time to upgrade and upskill so that when the time comes, we can be ready to ride the uptrend. Lastly, do not be afraid to employ help because, like ants, we are stronger together. A big lesson learned for us from this pandemic is really the importance of having a one step beyond mindset. In everything we do, we should always think one step beyond, be it customer service, be it budgeting, be it expansion plans, etc. And with this mindset, we'll have more options in any scenario. More importantly, we are also very mindful about the mental health of everyone in the organization. With circuit breaker, work from home, and all the negativity that has been going around on the news, on social media for the past few months, it is crucial to be mindful about our mental health. And we always remind the team to maintain their balance in their daily lifestyle, to have enough rest, enough water, exercise, having a good diet, and of course, spending quality time with the family. Only with this basics settled, we can then set our minds right to grow sustainably. Thank you, Michael. I shall pass back the mic to you.
Thanks, Jason. Fantastic sharing. Unfortunately, we've run out of time for Q&As, but if I would take a shot just to, think about what are some of the key points that resonated with me from the sharings by the different panelists. I think it's really clear as you think about digitalizing your business to be able to differentiate, what's table stakes and what would be unique and differentiating for you moving forward. I think number two, a lot of our panelists have shared about really putting the customer at the front and center, putting them and their needs at the heart of the change, and really making it easy and frictionless for you to be able to serve them better. Our panelists also shared a lot about using data and using different digital tools better. And I think in terms of driving change, I think all of them were also extremely clear in sharing that it's important to be able to drive change from the top and also to bring your organizations and your key stakeholders along with you. I hope that the stories from the panelists today provide some inspiration for everybody who is listening in to take action, to relook your business, to find opportunity during this crisis. As Michael has shared, there's a lot of support from the government. And it's important that as we change, is also that we are also putting our people at the front of many of these future developments during these uncertain times. I'd like to, on behalf of the audience, register a big thanks to the panelists for making the time to share with us. And I'd like to wrap up the panel here and hand the floor back to Graham to continue with the rest of the conference. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, Janet, Michael, Jason, and Mike from BCG today for moderating the panel session and allowing the panelists to share their stories and experiences with us. Thank you all. Moving forward, data's coming up next. That's what the next panel session is going to be about. That's the business end of today. We're going to learn about data and some of the case studies associated with that. Just a quick reminder from the organizers about the OnLive platform, which you can access. If you haven't accessed it yet, you've got full access to that to connect with the companies and individuals today. You can go onto the online platform and use it all the way up until the 2nd of October. And in there, what you can do is connect with partners. You can connect with speakers and attendees. There's a useful matching service there. You can meet up and suggest meeting times, make bookings, or just message people to facilitate your experience today, because I'm sure, as we've seen today, there's a lot of questions you would like to ask, which we didn't get the time to do. So use the online platform for that. Now, we've got data coming up next, but before that, we've got a couple of videos that we would like to share with you. And these are going to segue into the next panel session. We're going to play a video first about how the schemes and programs offered by SSG that Dr. Michael introduced to us just now, and how they put together a competent team with TechSang and how that has added value to their business. So we're going to watch that video and learn about, hopefully, how that can encourage all business leaders to institutionalize learning within their organizations and commit to upskilling their employees. So please play the tape.
TechSang is a family business. My father and my cousins has grown the business for the last 50 years. Now it is at a crossroad where we need to also address those younger generations. With traditional business, we have to make it appealing and make it such that they want to come to work for a place where they could see the future and believe in it. And that's our challenge today. As part of the transformations, we're going online. This requires a new set of skills. We also need to train our existing staff to address the new customer base, which are younger. Being an SME, we do not have a full-fledged human resource department. We did a pilot to understand how we could scope job descriptions. The skills framework has helped us to identify the key skill set, competency level. That helps us a lot. We've got to think and how to reinvent ourselves so that what we offer are relevant to this generation.
Thank you. Okay, so we've learned about the SSG program now. Moving on to data, we can't talk about data without data protection, a key part of managing your data. So we're going to have a look at a video now from IMDA. And we're going to learn about their data protection certifications. In today's digital economy, where data is integral to business, how can your organization demonstrate accountability and increase trust with customers? It's all about trust. That's been mentioned a number of times today in the presentations. Trust, authenticity, transparency. So to prove that you have sound data protection practices in place and protect the personal data, let's look at the video and learn about IMDA's data protection certifications. The following video introduces the available data protection certifications for both local and global businesses. Play the tape.
Did you know 2 in 3 consumers say they would rather buy from a brand that is certified to protect their personal data? 4 in 5 companies also prefer to work with partners that properly manage personal data. You can offer this assurance with Singapore's data protection certifications. The Data Protection Trust Mark is a certification aligned to the Personal Data Protection Act. It shows that your company has good policies and practices to protect your customers' personal data. The certification assessment will help you identify gaps, improve processes, and respond swiftly to data breaches. If your company handles cross-border data, you can plug into more global opportunities across APEC member economies with these additional certifications. Apply for the Cross-Border Privacy Rules System, or CBPR certification, if your business collects, holds, processes, or uses personal data. Or apply for the Privacy Recognition for Processes System, or PRP certification, if your business processes personal data on behalf of others. These certifications save you time and cost, addressing global data protection requirements with a single standard across APAC. All 3 data protection certifications help your brand grow, not just locally, but globally. Letting you assure customers everywhere so they feel safe transacting with your brand. Be world ready for global growth. Apply today.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to panel session number 2, which is all about data. Now, you probably have heard many times said that data is the new fuel, data is the new currency, data is the new oil. And interestingly, some data about data published recently, IBM have published research which said that we have produced more data in the last 2 years alone than in the entirety of our human history. Think about that, just in the last 2 years alone. So I can understand everybody here today may feel overwhelmed by data. So much. What do you do, and what skills, and how do you use data effectively? This is what the next panel session will hopefully address. We'll be focusing on how businesses can emerge stronger through better use of data. Now, this session is curated by the Personal Data Protection Commission, PDPC, and we're going to hear from distinguished panelists on the importance of data governance as a fundamental layer to build up consumer trust and confidence, and how data collected can be confidently and innovatively used to enable businesses to emerge stronger and more competitive. So this is the panel session about data, and it's my pleasure to invite the panelists to turn on their videos and join us for this session. We have Mr. Alan Chan, Group Chief Risk Officer, Lazada. Mr. Mark Platchek, apologies if I've mispronounced you there, Mark, but that was my best attempt, Senior Director and Head of Global Privacy at PayPal. Thank you, Mark. And Dr. Xiao Tung Yang, CEO and founder of Manandoc. Thank you all for joining us for this session today. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Yong Zi King. Obviously, we know him as Zeke. So Zeke is the Assistant Chief Executive Data Innovation and Protection Group, Infocom Media Development Authority, IMDA, and Deputy Commissioner of PDPC. So Zeke, please, the floor is yours. We are going to obviously learn about data, but I think, as is the proceedings for all these virtual conferences now, the organizers would like to take a group selfie. So what I would like to do is ask all the panelists to turn their videos on, and I will count us in. So are you ready, folks? Smile for the camera. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Well done, folks. So I'm going to hang back over to Zeke, and he will take the floor. The session is his. Now, this panel is organized in an interactive way. There won't be a dedicated Q&A at the end of this session. So I encourage you all, because I'm sure you have many questions about data, to put your questions in the Q&A box there. And Zeke will receive those questions, and I'm sure he'll field them in groups as and where appropriate. So over to you, Zeke. Good morning to you. Looking forward to this session.
Thanks, Graham. Thank you, I think, everyone, for the opportunity for us to come here as a panel to talk a bit about data and how data can be our friend and our partner as we look towards planning for a stronger recovery after the last few months. I'm privileged to be joined on the panel with distinguished guests, right? Graham has already introduced them. What I'd like now to do is maybe call on each of them to give us a short introduction about what they do and what kind of perspective they will share about as we dive into the session later. So first, I'll call on Alan Chan. Over to you.
Hello, Zeke, and thank you, everyone. Once again, very honored and very privileged to be invited for this session to be a panelist. So my name is Alan. I'm the Chief Risk Officer and also the DPO for the Lazada Group. Lazada has been investing very heavily when it comes to protecting the data of our consumers, of our sellers. We're a marketplace, so being connected with different partners is for us is day in, day out, bread and butter of our business. So it's an important part for us, and I hope that today in the discussion, I'll have a chance to learn from the panelists, learn from everyone, and also share what we've been doing in Lazada as part of data privacy and protection. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks for that introduction. I'll turn next to Mark. Mark Pleczek, can you give us a short introduction about what you do and the perspective you hope to bring?
Yes, happy to do that. Thanks everyone for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As you've heard, my name is Mark. I'm the head of global privacy program at PayPal, and my job is basically to monitor the company's compliance with our data protection framework, and also, of course, to enhance the program to take it to the next step, because as you know, data and all those processes are ever evolving. So that's my main task. For those who are not too familiar with PayPal, we're a service or a payment provider globally, a US-based firm, but we have our international headquarters in Singapore. And while we're doing our business, of course, we're collecting a lot of data, and we're living, as has been said so many times already, from our customers' trust, which is super important to us. And I hope I can give you a little bit of insight of what we're doing to let people know and let them feel comfortable of how we're treating their data and how we process it.
Thanks, Mark. And I'd like now to turn the time over to Dr. Xiao to give a short introduction of what he does, right, as CEO of Mana Doctor.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on this conference as a panelist. I'm actually a practicing physician. I'm also the CEO and founder of Manadoc, which is essentially a healthcare telemedicine platform that I founded 3 years ago. The main aim, of course, of this platform is actually to connect everyone, hopefully globally, to a trusted, accessible healthcare network from cradle to grave. And to accomplish this vision, we hope to bring a very competent and caring medical team to your doorstep. And of course, we want to offer, in conjunction with this, a very high model of quality, efficient healthcare that embraces the best practices and innovative technology. And of course, to achieve this, we need a very trusted model. Healthcare is actually about trust. And not just trust alone. As Zeke has mentioned, we want to also touch briefly on how this trusted model of care allows us to accumulate accurate data to actually reach out to many other lateral businesses. And it is my privilege actually for IMDA to invite me to come on board to share our journey for the last 3 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Xiao. So let me just try and open with a few thoughts, right, and provoke some of the discussions that will come later on. So everyone usually associates a Deputy Commissioner of a Personal Data Protection Commission to basically usually talking about how you need to protect data, how